Hello and welcome to Dialed In, PC Mag's daily show on Facebook, where we show you one cool thing which we are testing in the PC Mag labs. I am Sasha Segan, this is Tom Brandt, and we are, of course, as always, taking your comments and questions about desktop PCs, laptops, keyboards, mice, SSDs, cell phones, tablets, anything else really you want to ask about. Maybe we'll know the answer, maybe we won't. Give us a try. What we have here today is a truly impressive triangular desktop PC. Tom, what is this thing called?
So this is the Alienware Area-51 Threadripper Edition.
Threadripper.
Which is vaguely aggressive sounding name, but Dell, who owns Alienware, didn't come up with that name. That belongs to AMD, which makes the 16-core CPU that powers this thing.
Yes, let us first dig into the Threadripper. What does this bring you as opposed to, you know, a typical Intel i7 processor?
So basically, AMD has ramped up their processor offerings this year. They have some new basic offerings that compete with your standard Intel Core i5 and i7 and i3, but the Threadripper edition really goes beyond that, and it's the closest competitor on the Intel side would probably be the new Intel Core i9, which really you're not going to see those in very many PCs at all. It's only these high-end gaming machines that have these. That said, though, as impressive as the Threadripper is, it's not actually the main draw of this, because this actually has two NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 Ti graphics cards.
Can we turn this thing around to show people what's in it?
Yeah, we're actually going to show that off to you, but we just wanted to note first that the front of this looks like any other Alienware PC. That they had this design for a couple years. You can actually customize the lighting on this like a gaming laptop, but the real cool thing is when we turn it around, we can actually see, you can take both of these panels off.
Heck yeah.
And
now we're talking.
Here is, let's see if we've got it in the shot. Yeah, that's so you can clearly see the two NVIDIA 1080 GeForce 1080 Ti graphics cards. They're taking up almost all of the PCI expansion slots because the cards are dual height.
So let's talk about what else is in here from now. This is Alienware is Dell.
Yes.
And so this being Dell, it is hyper configurable.
It is.
So you can go way up and down in terms of processor, in terms of storage, in terms of memory. This configuration here, which is $5,000.
Okay, so yes, this configuration is just a hair over $5,900.
Okay.
So near as makes so different, $6,000. That is a lot of money to spend on a gaming desktop.
What is in this box?
Okay, so we have here, in addition to what I mentioned, the processor and the GPU, we have 32 gigabytes of memory. And we actually have two hard drives, which I'm not sure that you can see.
Well, one's an SSD.
Yeah, one's an SSD. I think that the hard drive, well, so one is an SSD. It's a 1 terabyte SSD that's actually on the motherboard. And then the secondary drive is a 2 terabyte regular spinning drive that is somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. So basically that allows you to store a massive amount of whatever game you're currently playing, or games plural, and then all of your photos and less access files on the spinning drives, because that way you don't have as much. It's more speedy when you're trying to access those games that you're playing frequently.
Now I'm a little surprised that this $5,000 configuration does not have any kind of liquid cooling system.
Yeah, so the cooling is very conventional. I think that's a thing that Alienware has experimented with before, but basically the cold air, or the air from the room, comes in through the front of this. It flows through the PC and then comes out the back with this massive exhaust. So it's really just air-cooled.
But is that good enough to pump both 1080 Ti's at maximum speed? And what if people want to overclock either their processor or their graphics cards?
Yes, so that's a common reason why you'd spend all this money on a desktop. You know what you're doing, you want to overclock it. This actually has the ability to extremely detailed customization for overclocking. You can actually specify the megahertz of the CPU. You can specify a bunch of different parameters to get the exact and validate them all, so you're not blowing up your computer in real time. You can validate those in real time. However, I actually have not spent a lot of time gaming with this machine, so I don't know how loud the fans are, but I can tell you that it's from previous ones that we've tested that it's really not that noisy at all. It's certainly much quieter than a laptop.
I guess I'm more concerned about if you're overclocking everything in here, can the cooling system handle it, or are you going to get overheating issues?
Both. So the cooling system can handle pretty much any overclocking scenario that you do that's not going to otherwise, brick or make your PC crap out. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure you could try to mess with it, but basically there are validation in there so that you can get what you want out of the overclocking without melting down your computer.
So before we get to questions, I just wanted to ask about benchmarks. How does this benchmark in the realm of gaming PCs?
So here's the thing. We gave this PC, this Alienware Area-51 Threadripper Edition, 3.5 stars. This is an amazing computer for gaming, but its best use is actually if you want to play games but also have some other program running.
Because you are thread ripping.
Yeah, because of this 16 cores in here. So really, the reason why it doesn't stand up to some of the other best desktop PCs we've tested is because for these two 1080 Ti's, you don't actually get the maximum frames that we've ever seen on the 4K Ultra gaming benchmarks that we do.
Why?
This gets around 80 frames per second when you dial up all the settings to the maximum and you're hooking up to a 4K monitor. I'm not sure. I really don't know. But basically, okay, that said though, the difference between 80 frames per second and 100 frames per second, which is really the best that we've seen, is not huge. But the difference in price is. This is $6,000. Some of the other best gaming PCs that we've tested actually come in significantly lower than that, $1,000 less.
Let's start taking some questions. What do you have out there?
Can it play 4K Minecraft?
Yes, this machine with
you can play 4K anything.
This really can play 4K anything, and like I said, you are going to be satisfied with the 4K performance of two NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti's. You'd really even be many gamers would be satisfied with just one.
Now, are there more Threadripper PCs of various kinds coming out? Because this is a very early. Is this the first one?
So we actually a couple months or so ago we built a home-built version with the Threadripper, and that was kind of when the Threadripper first came out, which was about a month and a half, 2 months ago, earlier this summer. But they will start to trickle into the market. The problem is that you aren't, like I said at the beginning, you aren't going to be seeing them in consumer-oriented PCs. These are really enthusiast PCs.
Well, I mean, that said, so frequent viewers of this show know that I am a little bit obsessed with Microsoft Excel. And when I heard 16 cores, the first thing I thought was, and people who frequent watchers of the show know I'm a complete dork. The first thing I thought was spreadsheet recalculations.
Exactly.
Man.
This thing, it completed our PC Mark 8 comprehensive benchmark, which measures spreadsheet, video conferencing, word processing, web browsing, video streaming, anything else that you do other than gaming on a regular basis. And it posted a score well north of 4,000. It's a proprietary score, so that score doesn't really mean anything. But anything over 4,000 on that test is very good.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking is Threadripper. This is a gorgeous PC, and you've got your two graphics cards in here with 11 gigs of RAM each.
Yeah, there's 11 gigabytes in each of these cards.
Okay, but I feel like the AMD Threadripper specifically might be even better optimized to some of those business tasks with some of those applications which specifically do multi-core calculations.
It's interesting. I'm not sure if they're actually planning on putting the Threadripper in a workstation, for example. It would be well suited to it. The problem is with a
or servers, for instance, which are generally running a whole bunch of different processes on different cores.
Right. I mean, this specific PC is not for that, but I would imagine that it would do well. The one problem with doing that is if you really need certain specific business applications that have EEC memory support. I don't believe that you'd be able to get that with the Threadripper.
Okay.
But we will see more of those systems start to proliferate.
Now, is there also an Intel variant of this from Alienware?
Yes, you can buy an Area-51 Intel-powered machine. I'm not sure what the latest one is. I'm assuming it's powered by the Core i9, which is kind of Intel's answer to the Threadripper. Slightly fewer cores, but probably still just as good performance. We've tested some Core i9 PCs that you can look up on PCMag.com.
Okay, do we have any other questions out there?
Could playing at 4K at more than 60 hertz be possible with this PC?
More than 60 hertz. I actually did not test that, but it really depends on the display that you have.
If you have a 120 hertz display,
it should be possible.
Yeah, if you have a 120 hertz display, you said this could get 80 frames per second with 4K gaming.
We tested this with 80 frames per second with 4K gaming. That will also vary a little bit if you have G-Sync enabled, which synchronizes the frequency of your display with the frames that the graphics card is putting out. So they'll vary somewhat, but in general, yes.
Yeah, the answer is effectively we're going up to about 80 hertz.
Yes, exactly.
Let's take another question.
What's the price of the one you're reviewing right now? Is that the full spec version?
Yeah, so going back to this, the pricing for this right now, if you were to configure this system at Dell.com or over the phone, is near as much of a difference, $6,000, a bit less than $6,000.
Yeah, let me walk back to the Dell configurator here.
Yeah, we can do that.
And we can talk about all the options. So you can go to 8, 12, or 16 core processors, and that's a delta of $600 there. You can go to, I thought this was interesting, you can pick an 850 or 1500 watt power supply.
Yeah, I believe this has the 1500 watt. We can actually, let's turn this to the back here so we can.
And that's a $250 delta.
Massive power supply.
You can go from one GTX 1060 up to these two 1080s or three Radeon RX 580s, and that's an $1,150 delta.
Right. The bulk of the cost comes from these two cards and the Threadripper, obviously.
You can go from 8 gigs of DDR4 memory to 64 gigs of DDR4 XMP, another $1,100 delta. So you can see how you can go down in theory to maybe the $2,500 range, and then up, if you spec it all the way up, I think you end up over 6.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you definitely end up over 6. Let's actually look at some of the ports here. We actually have 7 USB 3.0 ports, but only 1 USB-C port, and it doesn't support Thunderbolt 3. That's probably fine for gamers.
Yeah, I mean, you're plugging your gaming monitor into the graphics cards, not into the USB-C port.
Right. So, and then you also have plenty of USB. Most virtual reality headsets require 2 USB as well, so that's nice. You have dual gigabit Ethernet for game streaming, a full complement of the audio ports, including a digital audio out. And then over on the front, you actually have a very unique feature, which is kind of old but nice to see. It's a slot loading DVD drive.
Yeah, and that's an option. That is a configurable option, and this I assume is Blu-ray as well.
Yes. Yes.
And so that also, it's good to note this is a very good PC for VR, for HTC Vive, Oculus, all that stuff.
One of the first things that you do when you unbox this thing and you look at the manual, it explains in the second step how to plug in your virtual reality headset.
There you go.
That's as much a marketing thing as an actual helpful thing, because they want you to use this for virtual reality.
Let's take another question.
What's the SSD size?
Okay, so we have, this specific machine has 2 hard drives. One is a 1 terabyte SSD, which is where the system files reside and any games that you're playing. And then it also has a 2 terabyte regular spinning drive.
And here on the configurator, you can see that you can configure it from a standalone 2 terabyte hard drive, 256 gig SSD, up to a dual 1 terabyte SSD and 2 terabyte hard drive.
Right.
So A lot of options.
And not only are there a lot of options when you buy it, but there's plenty of space in here, as you can see, to add
more storage.
drives later or swap them out. I do want to actually say that we tested this anecdotally in addition to the normal test that we do. We hooked this up to 2 monitors, one 4K monitor and one 3K monitor. And we ran a gaming benchmark on the 4K monitor and did another productivity test, which involved encoding videos with the Handbrake application. And there was no discernible difference there. It did both of those tasks at the same things. So if you are the kind of person who games and does intensive multimedia work and at the same time, this is really the system for you. And the Threadripper, that's the power of the Threadripper. Any other scenario, just as a purely entertainment gaming PC, it's really not cost effective. You can do much better.
Okay, so what is our editor's choice in the world of gaming PCs right now?
So I'm actually not sure for the high end. We should look at that here. Let's just pull that up. Because there are several Core i9 systems that we've tested recently. Let's just do best gaming desktops, and we can compare this. Yeah. So we have the Origin Neuron here, which is actually has a Core i7, but that powers every 4K game that you'd want to play for significantly less. I believe that starts at $1,000.
Yeah, and if you want a Core i9, we've got the Velocity Microraptor Z95.
Yeah, so that would be the other comparison to this. But really, it's a matter of, are you multitasking when you're playing 4K games?
Now, I have to say, my hands are a little chilly here in the studio right now. I don't know why. It's because we went to these cold lights instead of the hot lights we used to have. And I'm really just kind of warming them against the back of this PC.
Yeah. If you have a cat, this is great.
Yeah. Let's take another question.
Actually, related to that, what is the cooling system?
Okay, so this is an air, well, not conventional, it's very powerful, but it's an air cooling system. The cold air comes in from the front of the PC through this massive grill here.
It's just a big old fan.
And then it goes out, it's essentially just a bigger version of what you would have in any desktop.
Yeah.
There's no liquid or anything in here.
Any more questions out there? Great. So we gave this monster, as you said, 3.5 because it's expensive and maybe Threadripper is not, you're not using its features ideally in this gaming context.
Many people won't. Some people will, but for most people, those 16 cores are kind of overkill.
Okay, great. And when is this review going up?
So you should check PCMag.com very soon. Hopefully it's published. It'll be published sometime this morning Eastern Time. Okay,
terrific. So thank you all very much for watching. This has been One Cool Thing from PCMag.com. We will be back tomorrow with another cool thing for you.